road diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. So as for that, the passing bears had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no steps had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how away leaves aren't away, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Robert Lee Frost was born on March 26, 1874 in San Francisco. After his father died in 1885, the family moved across the country to Lawrence, Massachusetts. Frost graduated from Lawrence High School in 1892. He published his first poem in the high school's magazine. Once he graduated, he attended Dartmouth College for 2 months. "I wasn't suited for that place," he explained. He proved no more suited for Harvard, where he lasted 3 semesters before deciding, once again, that college was not for him. "They could not make a student of me here, but they gave it their best," he said. Frost drifted through a string of occupations after leaving school, working as a teacher, cobbler, and editor of the Lawrence Sentinel. His first published poem, My Butterfly, appeared in the November 8, 1894 edition of the New York newspaper, The Independent. In 1895, Frost married Eleanor White, with whom he shared valedictorian honors in the high school. She was a major inspiration for his poetry until her death in 1938. After they failed at farming in New Hampshire, the couple moved to England in 1912. It was abroad that Frost met and was influenced by such contemporary British poets as Edward Thomas, Rupert Brooke, and Robert Graves. Frost also established a friendship with the poet Ezra Pound, who helped to promote and publish his work. Years later, Frost fought for Pound's release after he was imprisoned by the American government for treason during World War II. In 1912, Frost published his first book of poetry, A Boy's Will. In 1914, his second book of poetry appeared, North of Boston. By the time Robert Frost returned to America in 1915, he was fast becoming the most famous poet in America. He seemed to be the one who embodied all that America liked most about itself. At a time when modern poetry was growing increasingly obscure, here was a poet who wrote in straightforward language about ordinary New England farmers and laborers. Robert Frost is the only author to have won the Pulitzer Prize 4 times for poetry. First in 1924 for New Hampshire, again in 1931 for Collected Poems, again in 1937 for A Farther Range, and finally in 1943 for A Witness Tree. On March 26, 1962, President John F. Kennedy awarded Robert Frost the Congressional Medal for his contribution to American letters. About Frost, President Kennedy said, "He has bequeathed his nation a body of imperishable verse from which Americans will forever gain joy and understanding." Robert Frost died in Boston on January 29, 1963.
Hello everyone, Jim Hitt here with a few final words about Robert Frost. Frost created his own persona, the homegrown, homespun philosopher. But in a 3-volume biography by Lawrence Thompson, the author painted an entirely different picture of Frost, puncturing the poet from every angle. He called Frost a monster of egotism, who left behind him a wake of destroyed human lives. He also saw Frost as a mean-spirited megalomaniac who represented one of the worst examples of a common strain in American life. Which is the true Frost? As the newspaper editor in John Ford's The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance said, "When you've got the legend and the truth, print the legend." I prefer the legend. Frost was a great American poet. I'm unsure how he translates to other cultures, but for me, he wrote my favorite poem of all time, Birches, which I would like to share with you now.
When I see birches bend to the left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. But swinging doesn't bend them down to stay. Ice storms do that. Often you must have seen them loaded with ice a sunny winter morning after a rain. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many-colored as the stir cracks and crazes their enamel. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust, such heaps of broken glass to sweep away you'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. They're dragged to the withered bracken by the load, and they seem not to break, though once they're bowed so low for long, they never right themselves. You may see their trunks arching in the woods years afterwards, trailing their leaves on the ground, like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry in the sun. But I was going to say, when truth broke in with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out and in to fetch the cows. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball, whose only play was what he found himself, summer or winter, and could play alone. One by one he subdued his father's trees by writing them down over and over again until he took the stiffness out of them, and not one but hung limp, not one was left for him to conquer. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon, and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains you use to fill a cup up to the brim and even above the brim. Then he flung outward feet first, and with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So was I once myself a swinger of birches, and so I dream of going back to be. It's when I'm weary of considerations, and life is too much like a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twig's having lashed across it open. I'd like to get away from earth a while, and then come back to it and begin over. May no fate willingly misunderstand me, and half grant what I wish, and snatch me away not to return. Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree and climbing black branches up a snow-white trunk toward heaven, till the tree could bear no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. That would be good, both going and coming back. One could do worse than be a swinger of birches.